you hearing the music now as well? Ah, you can hear it. Good evening and welcome, ladies and gents, boys and girls, and Dota players around the world. I am a Jubba, joined by a Skaapie. It is good to have you behind the mic again as we go into this Epoch vs Leetpro game. How are you feeling this evening?
Oh, very good. I'm very keen. Yeah, it's been a little while since I've cast, especially with you, Jobs. But very keen. This game, it's sort of the lowest seeds, but by no means the lower skilled players in the division of the Masters. So very excited to see the outcome of this game.
Well, it has been quite an interesting journey for Leetpro. They actually got relegated into the Prem Division by Epoch. So this is a bit of a revenge match, if you will. This is the point where Leetpro says to the guys, we deserve to be Masters. This is the team that put us in Prem, and we are going to show that we deserve to be here in the VS Gaming Masters bracket.
Yeah, I mean, that's what we asked for, right? That's the best kind of Dota we're going to get when we see a team like this, a little bit of a grudge match. And, I mean, both teams high skill, and they both got pretty reasonable respect for one another. Know that each side has pretty reasonable players, and that's speaking lightly, because I think there's quite a lot of talent here.
Absolutely. I mean, we've got in the Masters League, there's 80 top players in SA. And amongst these players here, we are dealing with the top echelon of players in SA. So we are in for a bit of a cracker of the game. I mean, we've got some bands picks that already come out. Do you want to take us through what you foresee and what the new meta is? I mean, I haven't been able to really pinpoint what players are been going for. I've seen Tiny's been picked up a lot, Tusk's been picked up a lot, and big bands coming out on those two new heroes, the Dark Willow and the Pangea. But which kind of direction do players want to go? Early, mid, early pushing strats, trying to play to the mid game, late game. What is it that teams are now finding their strengths in?
I feel like there's still this big variety actually currently in this patch. We've seen a lot of sort of push strats, but we also see it fail. We see a lot of teams look to take it into the later game. But I must say the Dota hasn't actually been very boring. We always see quite a lot of action, so I hope that's kept up. But by looking at this draft already, the opening looks very promising, right? We got the Tusk, very good. Shard, Snowball, very active in sort of setting up team fights, saves, things like that. Witch Doctor is also one of the heroes that, contrary to popular belief, is one of the heroes that actually want to be on the front foot, right? He wants to be going in, throwing down their melodic, using his heal to give his team that little bit of extra restoration when they're walking forward. And, I mean, still a lot of physical damage and things like that. We look on the side of Leetpro, they too have picked up somewhat aggressive heroes. Tiny's going to look to try and get an early blink or something like that, and see if he can get a couple of early kills around the map. Ancient Apparition is also one of those heroes that provide quite a lot of damage, and it's when you pick up an Ancient Apparition, more than likely giving away that we are going to look to group up at some stage of the game. And we dare you to try and group up against us, because Ancient Apparition can be devastating in that regard.
Well, now, they've picked up the Ancient Apparition really good against the Voodoo Restoration. Do you think it's a part of the ploy?
I mean, Voodoo Restoration it's a constant heal. I always used to view it like this. It uses as much mana as heal as you're going to get. It scales. Doesn't heal incredibly, it just heals faster. It's not really that much of an issue if they do cancel it out. It's not the main attribute of a Witch Doctor. It's just something that he does bring to the field. But I just think we can see the Gyrocopter picked up now, another hero that deals very well at grouping up early on, but on their flat cannon as well as his call down he's got a variety of both magical and physical damage output. So I don't think it's the main ploy of the Ancient Apparition is to sort of deal with the Witch Doctor. Like, maybe there's a bit of an issue. Jubba, are you there?
No. Testing.
All right. So okay, I was a bit of an awkward silence that, you know.
Sorry, well, we all have our technical dramas every now and then. So hopefully that is it for for the evening. If not, we'll just bear with it. But while my mic was apparently muted, I was talking about how some of the players from Leetpro have actually changed their positions. Now, I know a little bit more about Leetpro because I was able to actually see them down at the Leet LAN and to kind of see what positions they played. I haven't seen much of Epoch lately. You may have a little bit more insight to the positions they play. But for the side of Leetpro, I mean, ACG did come from the mid lane. He's now been playing in the off lane position. We've got TKC that used to be the mid player. He's now playing position 5. So quite a drastic changing roles and positions for these players.
Yeah, and I mean, you got a player like Deppy on your team. You don't really want to say, "Hey, Deppy, do you want to maybe play something else?" You're gonna put him in the mid lane, and that's a certainty. And they got ACG. ACG has played off lane in the history, so it's not too uncomfortable for him. So is Chelsea though, so we'll see what they're really gonna do. But I think Epoch, when we look at them, I'm going just by assumption from history. I did play alongside a couple of these players as well. Fear Bender used to play mid, and I assume he's still going to be playing over on mid. Repo was always playing pos 4, and then I think just from after that we can just cut it out. And I think Stunt is playing off lane. I could be mistaken. Could be Nick as well. I know they're both. Actually, I think it might be Nick, and Stunt will be pos 5 with Snoop's pos 4. Again, I can't say that's cemented though. I haven't seen them play with the roster, especially in this new season. They might have made a few changes.
Now, I've been, I've had a little bit of an opportunity to sit back, relax, and watch a little bit of the international games that have been taking place. And a lot of the teams have put a lot of emphasis on like the Naga, the Underlord, these big team fight heroes. We don't see any of our teams going for that yet. Do we see our players still trying to find our groove in terms of the meta and not really following what the international scene perhaps is doing?
I think if you're not picking Underlord, you're making a mistake. I think that hero is extremely strong in this current patch. Once you've reached level 5 in the laning stages, you just clear the waves, make it very difficult for the core. That's creating space for your team as well, meaning that the supports can't rotate. So, I mean, I find it hard to see if it's not banned. It's banned in this game, so I won't be surprised if it's banned in every game. But I think in the SA scene, I've only watched a few games. I can't say I've been watching avidly, but from what I've seen, it seems like everyone is sort of falling into the international meta slowly but surely. I mean, team fights is definitely what I'm seeing here from this draft. The Doom being picked up here is another frontliner who's going to throw out his ultimates, try and deal with maybe the gyrocopter or even the tiny in that regard. Juggernaut's also great in gripping up and fighting. His healing ward is fantastic. Again, you brought it up. The Ancient Apparition is great at countering that. But again, it's something that you can time. It's not a burst heal. It's something that happens over time. So you can always retreat after an Ancient Apparition blast and then reinitiate after you've healed up. So yeah, I think the South Africans are falling quickly in pursuit after the international scene.
Well, we've pretty much almost summed up what the two teams are looking for here. We've got pretty much only the mid for the side of Epoch that they're still looking for, and the same for Leetpro. So what kind of heroes are we looking at? The SF, has the SF been banned out? No, it hasn't. The TA is still available. I don't know if I've actually seen Herbie been played mid quite a bit. Well, we're going to see now very quick what Epoch chooses. They decide to go for the Outworld Devourer. That pretty much leaves Leetpro with Invoker, SF. What other kind of options do we have here for Leetpro?
I mean, I don't see them pick up an Invoker. They do have maybe a bit of setup with the Naga, but Invoker hasn't been hugely popular currently. I think you look for more of a mid laner who wants to tussle. Queen of Pain would have been something that I wouldn't have minded to see, but now going up against an OD, life's not always going to be easy. So I think we're going to see Leetpro sit back and have a bit of the thoughts about what they're going to pick. And I like the ban that came out here from Epoch, because I was just thinking, imagine if they pick up a Broodmother for themselves, because I know Leetpro can play the Brood. I've seen it in history with at least the players. they can run the Brood, and that's a major issue. They could always put the Gyrocopter in the mid lane, but the Brood in the off lane. They could even put the Brood into the mid lane and see what pressure they can do. So I like that ban from them. But again, now we're stuck in that conundrum, and like I said, Leetpro is going to take a bit of time here. They're definitely going to have a hard discussion, because dealing with the OD is always
Razor
going to
would
be
have
an
been
issue.
good. I think Razor would have been really good, but Leetpro actually banned out the Razor.
And that's-
Maybe only the Viper's a real option at the moment.
You know who's actually a good hero is Morphling. Morphling is great up against the OD, but then you're really gonna. I don't know if they want to change up their mixture that they have now. If they do a Morphling, it's going to be a bit awkward. I actually go for the Lifestealer. Interesting. Could be a mid Lifestealer. Just by the way.
RDK has picked up the Lifestealer, so I think that's the position 1. And that I think is going to be a mid Gyro.
Gyrocopter, yeah. No, Gyrocopter's been played in the mid quite a bit, so he's going to have a tough time. It's OD. OD is a very, very abusive hero in the lane, so it's going to be a bit tough for them to deal with that. But okay, so it seems like Snoops is actually playing POS 1, so I am completely incorrect. So Stunts is on the off lane, Snoops, POS 1, Reaper, and Nick are going to be the supports. Okay, so I wasn't too far off.
No, but, that's decent effort there.
I tried.
So I want to ask you a question. Looking at the drafts thus far, ignoring the players, because I think at this point our players, it is the first game of the league. Players just trying to find their feet a little bit. Which team do you feel has got the better draft? Or could we say a team won the draft? Or is
I feel like Leetpro, that last pick by them, the last Stealer, really closed it out nicely. It's something that deals well with the OD. It deals well with a few of the other issues. Yes, I mean, Doom can do 1 or 2 things to him here and there, but we'll see what they opt to do to deal with him in the later game. But I definitely think Leetpro, I like their draft currently, but I actually don't think it's a complete one-sided draft. I think it's actually quite an even. It depends how the laning stages turn out.
Well, there you have it from Mr. Skaapie. It is going to depend on the early parts of the game to see if they can get themselves into this game and get themselves the first game under the belt. But for those of you that are just joining us, this is the VS Gaming Masters League first game of this new league, and it is going to be Leetpro versus Epoch, as it is going to be game number 1. Playing on the side of the Radiant, without further ado, it is going to be Nick going to be playing out onto the Tusker. We have got Fearbender playing out on the OD, Repo on the Witch Doctor. In the off lane, we have got Stunt playing the Doom. And last but not least, it is going to be Snoops on the Juggernaut.
Yeah, and we go over to the side of the die. We're going to have Leetpro. Naga Siren here to the bottom. We're going to be played up here by Chelsea. We're going to have ACG over on this Tiny. Seems like they might be doing a little bit of a dual lane there. Depi or Falling going to be playing over on that Gyrocopter. RDK on the Lifestealer, walking aggressively in with TKC over on that Ancient Apparition. So, yeah, both teams should get 1 bounty each. There we go.
Yep, pretty much 2 a piece. It looks like Jug is actually lining himself up mid here. Do you think this was a little bit of a rope-a-dope here from the side of Epoch that kind of said, well, okay, Fearbender picks up the OD. He's going to go play position 1 here in the safe lane up against the Witch Doctor and the Tiny. How do you think this lane's going to fare out for him?
I actually like this a lot. I think the Juggernaut doesn't fare too poorly against the Gyrocopter. Gyrocopter had a much better block, though, so he's already going to have a little bit of an advantage here. He's going to be able to push this wave underneath the tower, but Juggernaut deals okay with that. Doesn't have a Quelling Blade, so it's not going to be too easy for him, but shouldn't be in too much pressure here. So I think this is fine, and the OD is going to be able to abuse this lane. I think the Tiny is going to have a really tough time walking around with his little tree there to find himself any sort of advantage in the lane, but he's managed to find XP, and the supports haven't really pressured him out yet. It's still sort of setting up their lane. Nice ward placement, so you'll know when the supports are making motions. So yeah, that's very nice for ACG, in fact.
Well, what I have noticed is they've got a lot of save on the side of Epoch. Now, from my opportunities of being a lazy oak and watching a couple of international games, is teams actually prioritize the Tusk and the OD pick just because of the amount of save that they have. You've got the Astral Imprisonment, you've got the ball from the Tusk, constantly saving out players that could take a lot of abuse. For example, let's say Life Stealer, Open Wounds, get slowed down. Homing Missile coming out from the Gyro. Ensnare from the Nugget. Maybe even being able to break the combo coming out from Tiny. I mean, these are like combo breakers in the words of our... what is that one item? I always buy it when I'm a support because I always get blown up. What do you call it? The Aeon Disc. No, Aeon Disc.
Aeon Disc.
Yeah,
okay,
whenever there's a Tiny in the game, I always pick up an Aeon Disc because it's the only thing that makes me survive.
That item's so good. The other day I was watching a clip about it, and I think Anti-Mage came, and there was a Leshrac with no mana, and he came and he ultied, and all 5 players had Aeon Discs, and everyone just lost no health. And yeah, it's just AM who blinked in, who should have got a Rampage, and he's just like, oh, and he instantly dies. So it's a really good item.
Oh no! If I play a support, I prioritize it. I actually was able to solo down a Nature's Prophet the other night just because I had an Aeon Disc. But anyway, that's my shenanigans and my pubbing experience. Let's get back to the game. A couple of pings coming out here in the bot lane. ACG just trying to get what he can.
Yeah, Stunt's actually getting a lot in his lane now. The supports have rotated out to help out mid a little bit. But they are walking back. This might even be a kill here on Stunts. It's a bit of a tough kill, but he didn't get appointed to Scorched Earth, so... okay, in fact, they're not going to be committing too much yet. They don't have the nets up. In fact, Nog actually thought they might have that. If they have the nets up, Doom's in trouble. But he's fine for now.
That's
mid lane. This is a kill. Deppy's going to go down. Nice kill there for Snoops. Good rotation from the supports. And, I mean, the rotation from the supports didn't really mean that the OD's not getting any farm. And they found that first blood there for Snoop, so great movements for them.
Chelsea does show face here in the mid lane. We get the TP coming in from Deppy. And that is going to be the first blood for the side of Epoch. And first blood has been spilt. And Epoch is saying, boys, we are here. And maybe it wasn't a mistake us sending you into the Prem Division. But Leetpro, they're going to hold their heads up. Try and see if they can actually convince the boys of Epoch.
Yeah. Looking here in the bot lane, ACG, he's found himself actually level 3 quite early on.
They're going to go into stunt. Cold Feeder's out. They're going to get the stun off onto stunt. The right clicks are going to come out, but the Scorched Earth is going to allow him to heal through that. He's going to try and juke through the trees. Nugget is approaching. The TP comes in. Cold Feet is going to be good enough. And no. Stunt gets out. Does get a rotation out from Chelsea as well. So 3 players for Leetpro in the top lane, and Stunt getting away with his life.
Yeah, that was actually very expensive for RDK. He actually missed about 4 to potentially 5 last hits there, which makes a very big difference early on in the game like this. If we look over at the OD, he's sitting at 22 last hits compared to the 17 of the Life Stealer. So that's not very nice for him. And those sort of things, you want to secure that kill for your Life Stealer, and the fact that they couldn't is quite costly.
Well, things are going rather